Hi, I'm Tom from Tom's Cycle Recycling, and today we're going to bleed the brakes on my 1984 Honda VF 1000F Interceptor. I rebuilt the whole brake system from top to bottom. That includes the master cylinder, the calipers, it's got new lines. And the challenge here when bleeding brakes like this is it's a completely dry system, and you can run into problems sometimes with having an air-bound master cylinder and difficulty getting the fluid to move down to the calipers. I'm going to show you my little trick that works well for me, but I will mention that there's tools you can buy, vacuum pumps, that type of thing that can aid in the process. But I've found the way I do it works well, and it's quick and easy. There's not a lot of tools needed for this job, really only a few things. You'll want some kind of bottle with a tube set up, and the tube wants to fit tightly on the bleeder valve. That's where your fluid's going to be going. Of course, you need new brake fluid, and then you need an open-end wrench for loosening and tightening the brake bleeder valve. In this case, it's an 8mm wrench, but it may be different depending on the bike you're working on. First thing you want to do is protect your painted surfaces. If you're using .3 or .4 brake fluid, it's very easy to spill on paint, and it'll eat into it very quickly if you're not aware that it's happened. I like to cover everything with a towel, and a damp towel is the best way to go. I'm using .5 brake fluid, which is not corrosive to paint, but I'm going to do this anyway. There's all kinds of debates about .5 fluid versus 3 and 4, and I'm not going to get into that here. I happen to like it. Works well for me. You use what you prefer. I've got the cap already unscrewed. Just going to put it aside for a minute. Get some in here. Get the cap back on. So here's my trick. You've got to get brake fluid to move through the master cylinder, down the bore, and come out the hole for the banjo fitting. So what I do is I put my thumb right over that hole, and I start to pump. Pump a few times, and you can feel a little bit of a suction. Then I let go. Then I do it again. And you do this a few times, and all of a sudden you can feel pressure pushing out. And I can definitely feel pressure. And there's brake fluid right there in the threads, and I just felt a good push of pressure. And there's the brake fluid dripping down. So this is where your towel helps out. So it's pretty much primed. I don't know if you heard that pop, but there's definitely good pressure now. So that's done. Next thing to do is I'm going to connect my brake line. I'll do that off the air here, and then we'll come back and start bleeding. All right, so the master cylinder is primed and ready to go. I topped it off so it's got plenty of fluid in it for now. And I've got my son Joey here. He's going to give me a hand with the bleeding procedure. You can do it by yourself, but it's definitely easier if there's two people involved. I'm going to deal with the bleeder valve, and I'll just keep cracking it open. He's going to do the pumping, providing pressure so that he can move the fluid down to the caliper. So the procedure I use is you pump 3 times, hold the lever. I crack the bleeder and watch for air to come out, and then I'm just going to tell him, okay, he's going to do the same thing over and over again until I know all the air is out of the caliper. All right, go ahead. One thing that's usually a good sign is you'll start to feel pressure at the lever as well. Okay, fluid's starting to come out now. Go ahead. So that's a really good sign. And air bubbles are coming with it. For the sake of keeping this brief and not boring you to death, we did most of the bleeding after the initial start there. We'll pump the lever a couple more times, and you'll see the fluid's coming through now, and there's no air bubbles left. Okay, go ahead. After we bled the right side caliper, we went over to the left, and it took about 5 minutes to get the fluid to come down and be air bubble free. So then I came back to the right again, did it one more time just to make sure there was no more air bubbles, and went back to the left one more time. Keep in mind you've got to keep your reservoir full of brake fluid the whole time you're doing this, because if you let it run out, you're going to be pumping air back into the system, and then you've caused some problems. But this is no exaggeration. We started this job at 20 past 12 and we were finished 15 minutes later, and that's including priming the master cylinder. So when I tell you can do it in less than half an hour, that's no exaggeration. So that's pretty much it. There's a couple of things you can do if you're concerned there might be some residual air bubbles in there. Some guys like to take the lever and rubber band it to the throttle and leave it this way overnight. And what it'll do is it'll help push some of the air bubbles up into the reservoir of the master cylinder. Can't hurt, doesn't take any time to do it. You're not even here doing it when it's happening. And keep an eye on your brake fluid level, make sure it's okay, and then you should be all set. I can't wait to try the bike out now. The brakes should be a lot better than they were last year because everything is new. I hope you found this helpful. It was great to have Joey here helping me. Made the job go faster. And we'll see you again next time.